First Reformed is a 2018 film directed by Paul Schrader that tells the story of the downward spiral of a priest named Ernst Toller, played by Ethan Hawke, after the suicide of an attendee of his church and his discovery that his church is being subsidized by a big fossil fuel company. The arc words of the film are,
"Can God forgive us for what we've done to this world?"
which reflects the themes that Paul Schrader has been building towards for his whole career. First Reformed was met with critical acclaim and even an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay, a first for Paul Schrader. This video essay argues that First Reformed succeeds because it has a comparatively restrained style for a Paul Schrader film, while still retaining his core values and themes. Paul Schrader is known among cinephiles for his intense and uncomfortable films. Although it's arguable he isn't a household name, he wrote the screenplay for Taxi Driver, Scorsese's 1976 masterpiece. However, according to Rotten Tomatoes, Taxi Driver is the most mainstream, critically acclaimed film he's been involved with. First Reformed, although it was not a blockbuster, represents a return to form for Schrader, and the most critically acclaimed film that he has directed since 1978's Blue Collar. His metaphor for loneliness, as opposed to being an insomniac taxi driver who spends his night chasing fares, is captured by a priest who manages a tourist church that nobody attends. According to Crescentia Medina Gelangdecker and Bayou Cristiano in their article Nature Through God's Eyes, Ecological Perspectives in Paul Schrader's First Reformed, for the Journal of Language and Literature, Schrader's camera work is static, and its soundtrack minimalist, because he is adapting the style of Robert Bresson, one of the filmmakers whose work Schrader examined in a book he wrote titled Transcendental Style in Film, Ozu Bresson Dreyer. This influence makes sense since Bresson made the film Diary of a Country Priest, in which the protagonist is also a priest who is ill, and an alcoholic who is keeping a diary. According to Kevin Lincoln of Vulture, Lincoln also brings up Ingmar Bergman's Winter Light, suggesting that Schrader has substituted a church member's fear of nuclear annihilation for a church member's fear of climate change. Through restraining himself with static shots and minimalist sound design, Schrader has crafted a film that has created a set of rules. However, he does not adhere to these rules. That's where the film's most powerful scenes happen, because the audience doesn't expect them. According to Lincoln, with an interview with Schrader himself, he quoted Andrei Tarkovsky and the levitation scene in The Mirror when he wanted to break the rules of his own film, and employed the same technique. Likewise, Schrader's use of music, which goes from being non-diegetic to diegetic in the film's climactic scene, also breaks the rules that he observed in Bresson's films, no longer employing a minimalist soundtrack and no prominent non-diegetic sound. Likewise, the circling camera movement breaks the rule of Bresson's self-imposed static restrictions. Where the ending of Diary of a Country Priest involves the protagonist drinking a bottle of Drano and falling out of the frame, Ernst almost does the same, but is stopped by Mary before they embrace. Breaking Bresson's personal rules has not only enabled Schrader to craft an engaging climax that genuinely shocks the audience based on its own violation of the rules, but also demonstrates that Schrader is wearing his influences on his sleeve. He has crafted a film that is restrained in its execution right up until the end, and has engaged the audience, both emotionally and intellectually, better than if he had been self-indulgent or unrestrained.